Hey everyone, and welcome to a new Battle Brothers DLC, Warriors of the North. And I have to say, this DLC is 100% fantastic in my opinion. I have played it for, I think, 15 or 16 hours already. It comes out tomorrow on May 9th, or maybe it's today when I release this video. And it is fantastic. I thoroughly recommend it. There's nothing wrong with it. Unlike, say, Beast and Exploration, the Alps were kind of awful. And I had a big issue with Hexen as well, but this DLC is everything I want, and even a little bit more than that, to be honest. I'll show off some of the things in a minute here. This is going to be a quick overview video, kind of like a review of what I think of the DLC after 15 hours with it. We'll show off some of the Barbarians in a bit, some of the new music. Woo! It's really good. Spoiler alert. Really, really good. And then maybe talk about some of the changes to the mechanics, the whips, the weapons, stuff like that. But first, let's spend a little bit of time going over the biggest and most value added? No, just the biggest and best value of this DLC is the new company origin system here. It is incredible. Absolutely incredible. My first, last Sunday, I streamed for about 8 hours on the Northern Raiders scenario start, and the other day I streamed another 8 hours on the Lone Wolf start. And there's so many other starts. It changes everything about how the game plays out in the beginning. And even kind of like the mid-game, which is a breath of fresh air, because after, I think, 350 hours that I had played in the last 6 months, it got a little repetitive. You know, the beginning of the game was just, it was kind of tedious, starting to get a little tedious, but now it's like a whole new world in a whole, actually, it's a whole new bunch of different worlds. Anyway, let's go through the company origins really quick, and then I'll talk about my experiences with the two that I've played so far. So rebuilding a company is the old start with Hogarth, no difference there. I should note these skulls are the difficulty of that kind of start, so rebuilding a company is pretty easy, whereas Lone Wolf is really hard. It's a 3-skull difficulty start. A new company is the exact same thing as rebuilding a company, except you don't have Hogarth and you don't have the tutorial text. You get right in. It's kind of like they strip out and make it a little bit more streamlined. Otherwise, it's identical with all of the skills and the characters you get. Next up is Peasant Militia, and this is where things start to get interesting. Peasants start with 12 people in their roster, but they're poorly equipped and unhappy, which I'll show you in a second. Usually, most of these starts have some kind of interesting scenario, and then you have a benefit, and then you have a penalty. So this benefit is you can actually have 16 men that you could bring into battle, up from the normal 12, and you can have 25 in your roster, up from the normal, I think it was 18 before. So you can have a lot more men both in your roster and on the battlefield, but they start out really terrible. And detriment to this start is that you can only ever hire low-born peasants like fishermen and netters, or not netters, rat catchers, that's what they're called, and farmers and stuff like that. You can't hire anything like a sellsword or a hedge knight or anything. So you gotta get really lame mans and train them up, which is interesting. It's an interesting start, but overall, it's probably going to be one of the easier playthroughs. That's why it's 1 skull. Let's go take a quick look at what it looks like in the game. So for reference, everything I'll be doing today, or showing off today, will be an EEL start. So 750 crowns on the Peasant Militia on an EEL start. And as you can see here, most of them are disgruntled. You got a couple of eager guys, but we're talking pretty much loincloths and no hats. This guy's got a hat, but no weapon. He's a tailor. It's just basically, we have a loot, what is this, lean hard over here? A loot-wielding minstrel with a loincloth and a pimp hat. But yeah, this is an interesting start. Sure, you got 12 mans, but they're not that great. Looking through them all, we got vagabonds, day tellers. These are the things you can recruit, by the way. Millers, fishermen. Militia you can actually recruit, which is not too bad because there are half-decent militia in the game. That's probably the best bet for this company, is going around recruiting a lot of militia. But stuff like minstrels, and I think farmers. This guy was a tailor. Yeah, farmers over there. Poachers you can recruit, which is not too bad. I'll take a minute here to note that this guy's fatigue is off the charts. It's absolutely insane. What I have noticed is that these starts usually have the same skills. I haven't verified it on this specific one, but I think all 12 of these mans might have the same skills. So 2 melee defense, 3 fatigue, but the stats will be rolled randomly based on the background they start with. I should note also here, while we're here really quick, that this is the new War Fork. It's basically a tier 1 version of the Spedum, and there's not much more to say about that. This, however, is the new Sling. which is a two-handed throwing weapon. Now, it doesn't use the same throwing weapon specs as before. Let me see over here. Throwing mastery. So you still do 40% more damage from 2 tiles away if you take that perk. But it doesn't really do very much damage. It has very bad ignore and very bad armor. The benefit to the sling is that you get... What is it down here? You get 100% chance to daze on a head hit. And also, there's no ammo for the sling, so it never runs out. So I was wondering, or someone had mentioned this in chat, what if you made a Jester who gets +5 head hit, and you took Headhunter, and then you ran around just going for dazes with your sling? It's a thought. I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but it might not be terrible for something like this where you have 12 or 16 men in the battle, and you have 25, your whole roster can be filled up. So, oh, by the way, this is the only new, what is this, trait, I believe it's called, that I've seen in the game so far. 10% chance to have any attacker require 2 successful attacks in a row in order to hit. Just lucky that I happened to find the lucky trait here in this one random guy. I believe that's the only new one. Maybe there's more, but that's the only one that I've seen specifically. Anyways, this is the first start. Let's go take a look at the next one. Next up, we have Band of Poachers. Now, this is where we start getting into the 2-skull difficulty starts. So here we start with 3 woodsmen. Their benefit is they move faster on the map, and they can always get a scouting report for enemies near you. So this, at first glance, sounds really boring. Their detriment is that they travel light. They can carry less items in your company's inventory. Okay, this doesn't sound all that exciting, but for someone like me, almost all of my 350 hours playing this game have been an attempt to do a 0-death campaign. I failed every single time, but, you know, pretty much only 1 or 2 deaths in the first 100 days in most campaigns. Or most campaigns that last past the first week, let's say. In any event, this would be a great start to the Band of Poachers for that, because A, you can scout things out, B, you can run away from things that would otherwise potentially ambush you. Now, normally, your party's faster than everything on the map anyway, but sometimes something will spawn and you can't get away from them because you have to run into a mountain to get away from them, and then you're slowing down and they're still moving at full speed. So this is one way to ensure your 0-death campaign, or maybe not ensure, but it's one way to get a little bit of an edge if you're trying to go for a 0-death campaign. Also, I will say, let's go take a look at the characters here. They're really awesome. So we start out with 1,500 crowns this time around, which is very nice. Very, very nice. We have 3 people. Also, we start out with furs that are worth 300 that we can sell. But we start out with 1 hunter and 2 poachers, as I recall. Now, every single one of them has 2 skill in ranged, which is amazing. This hunter, if you wanted to, you could just save scum until you got a perfect max roll, 59 with double skill. That's very nice. The thing about this is, I have always... Ooh, this is a new song. That's new. Let's go turn it up a little bit and take a listen. The music is off the charts good in this game. 10 out of 10. I cannot wait till I show you guys the, what is it? The Warriors of the North fight music. Whoo, it's good. It's really good. Anyway, back to showing off this start here, and then we'll get off to the next one. My point is that you actually start with 3 really good archers, and you have enough money to recruit a frontline. And I think that's an incredibly safe way to start, especially when the fact that you can move faster and you can scout fast. Let's see how much faster you can move. This is 1 time speed movement. Doesn't look all that much faster. And this is 2 times speed movement. It's a bit faster, I will say. It's hard to know exactly how much until people look into the files for it, but I like this start a lot because I've always struggled in my 0-death campaigns to get a couple early Javelineers. And that is really the biggest difference I've found to maintaining 0 deaths. So I think this is a pretty interesting start, more so than it looked at first glance. Let's take a look at what else we got. Beast Slaters is up next. So these guys start with 3 Beast Slaters and decent equipment as well as some Beast trophies. You can see tracks from further away as one of your bonuses. That's a very small bonus, though. And Another bonus is that each beast you slay has a 25% chance to drop an additional trophy. And your penalty is that most people don't trust your kind, so you'll get 10% worse prices. To me, this is probably one of the least interesting, if not the least interesting out of all the origins. Only because I don't want to fight Elps ever, and this isn't... Just the sight of this Elp. I don't want to do it. But let's go take a look at what they look like. And here we are, 1,125 crowns. I have a little... Oh, I should also mention that every one of these guys has a different icon for the map, which is pretty cool. But we start out with literally Beast Slayer, and Beast Slayer. Now, they all start at level 2, which is an interesting thing. They don't actually start out with trophies, but you do start with a dog, and you get a couple of wolf pelts and some witch hair, which is worth a lot of money if you can sell that at a half-decent place. The wolf pelts, by the way, I think you can... I can't remember what it takes to build the dire wolf pelt mantle. I think it's just 2 wolf... No, it's 3 wolf pelts. So you're not quite there yet. And you can see your mans have relatively decent skill. Beast Slayers are pretty strong in general. This guy could be a great hybrid. Same thing here. They'd be okay hybrid. We got skill and fatigue. And we got probably some kind of half-decent tank with hit points and range defense. Not bad. Probably not my most interesting thing because I don't want to fight beasts. But if that's your thing, then here you go. Trading Caravan is up next. We start with 2 Caravan hands. You get 10% better prices for buying and selling as the benefit, and as the detriment, we start with no renown and gain renown at half the normal rate. So this seems to be something for people who really like the trading aspect of the game, and sometimes I like that. Sometimes, I just want to go fight. But if you're more into a casual trade build-up, or maybe you want to do more trading in one campaign because you just had a bloodbath in the last campaign, not a bad option, I don't think. So here we are, our little traders on the road. Not looking very aggressive. We've got 1,150 crowns to start out, but we should also know that we've got mead worth 100, wine worth 100, amber worth 260, cloth 140, dyes 400, furs 300, salt 340. Boy, I wish the caravans I fought had this kind of bounty, right? We only have 2 mans to start out, but you have enough money once you sell all these things to really get very strong force. You also have 2 Caravan hands with not bad stats, honestly. 2 skills in melee, 1 in melee defense. We have hit points over there. This is the same thing, except we have fatigue. This is fantastic characters. They'd be great frontline tanks. Not bad at all. By the way, here's the new Scimitar, an exotic curved sword from the south that is excellent for slashing, but not for thrusting or penetrating armor. And there's a few different tiers of this. So slash has 10% chance to hit like a normal sword does. It's relatively fatigue efficient like a normal sword, just 10 fatigue. Gash, on the other hand, is 4 AP to use with 20 fatigue. It has 33% lower threshold to inflict injuries. Very interesting, that. Although, with the lack of I wonder if... I really do wonder... The theory craft of the weapons is something I haven't gotten deep enough into the DLC to really play around with. But I do love crippling strikes. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I love the concept of people like debuffers who go around crippling strikes people, and then I have massive mushroom-wielding 2-handed executioners with frenzy who just execute all the mans. But anyway, that's the new Scimitar. Let's go take a look at the next one. Deserters. Deserters start with 3 deserters and decent armor. Now, they're not kidding. They're starting with, like, mail hauberks and stuff like that. However, these guys have lower funds, and, now this is where things start to get really interesting, a noble house that wants to hunt you down. Your men are always first to act in the very first round of combat. When I first read that, I thought, that just gives everyone, what is it, Swift? I think that's the talent. I can't remember exactly if that's what it's called. It's like the green one with the guy running. Now, Swift doesn't really do very much for one person, if that's what it's called, or maybe it's... I forget what the actual perk is. However, when you have it on everyone, this means you can avoid archer ambushes. Probably one of the most horrible things that ever happens to me in any campaign is we spawn into a map, and 3 crossbowmen are on a mountaintop, and they're like, boo, 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 and someone's instantly dead, or almost dead, and it fundamentally makes the whole battle about a defensive retreat. It makes it really difficult. You would never have that difficulty with these deserters because your entire party can always act first. You can always run away from those, run out of range from those crossbow guys on mountaintops. Look at this mail they start with here. 130 mail shirt. They also have heaters, keep in mind. You start with 2 heaters, a mail shirt, another basic mail shirt over here, and this is the mail, another mail shirt. I did a different one where I had a mail hauberk on one of them. On this one, we just didn't get it, apparently. It looks like they're between 115 and 150 armor. We also start with a crossbow. Stats are none too bad. We have 42 with 2 skill and ranged. Over here, we're looking at your typical tank, although he has resolve, which isn't too bad, although as a dastard, not the best. And 2 on melee. Fairly good characters all around. Deserter, 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 all 3 of them. They don't have a huge amount of money, but they start with good gear. And they're not going to get ambushed. If you want to play a hit-and-run campaign, this could be for you. The Davkol Cultists. Start with a group of 4 cultists with poor equipment. More cultists may flock to you for free. Now, this... I have to play this to see how it works out. I haven't played it at all yet. I don't know how that mechanic functions. Additionally, Davkol will occasionally demand sacrifices from you, but also bestow boons upon those loyal to him. I guess if you like RNG, maybe this is for you, but I think whether or not this is a good or bad start is really going to come down to experience with it. A nice little cultist icon on the map. We start out with everyone having a fanatic of Davkol. So no morale check is triggered upon allies dying. That's for all 4 of the starters. We additionally have +5 resolve on pretty much everyone. Other than that, they're just basic cultists, although this particular one seems to have some interesting skills set up as a hybrid. This one over here has some decent skills set up. Ooh, 50 with resolve. Maybe like abandonment later if you needed to. Ooh, brave as well. Wow. Wow. Brave, eagle eyes, and fanatic. The coolest thing possibly about this entire start is that you get a whip to start out with. And we'll go over that in a second. And then this guy over here has random, actually triple skill and resolve. Wow. Not only that, but he's determined. Very interesting start. This seems to be a high resolve composition. One of the things I've theory crafted in the past is whether or not a super resolve focus party would be incredibly strong. Now, usually what I'll do is just try to get everyone to a roughly 50 resolve and then have a strong bannerman. But I have long theory crafted that getting everyone a ton of resolve, maybe like 70 or something, could have a... And then also getting as many determined characters as possible so they start with really high confident morale. The benefits from starting with so many people super confident could be incredible. But to do this, you have to really crush through a lot of enemies very quickly. So it's going to be RNG on whether or not you get a good map with a good choke point where lots of things spawn on the roads, as they like to do. Let's check the whip out here. The whip, oh boy, the whip. I don't know if the whip is the most overpowered thing in the game, or if it's the funnest thing in the game, or if it's the thing I've always wanted but never had until now. But here's what the whip does. First, it's a one-handed cleaver. A little bit weird that. It does the same bleed like a normal cleaver, and with cleaver mastery, the bleed on the whip is actually doubled to 20. 20 per turn. Absolutely ridiculous. I could have sworn bleeding used to be 5 and 10. Now it looks like it's 10 and 20 on both the cleavers and the whips. Interesting. But the first attack here, normal 15 fatigue, 4 AP. The thing is, it has 3 tiles of range, and it inflicts additional stacking 10 bleeding per turn for 2 turns. 20 if you have spec. And if you read the beginning here, crack a whip over significant distance to inflict 2 stacks of bleeding damage at once. 2 stacks of bleeding damage for 20. Think about that. However, you have to actually penetrate to get the bleed, and it has very little damage at 15 to 30, and only 10% ignore and 25% effective against armor. So it's fantastic against naked mans, but if you have armor stripping capabilities, then it could be a behemoth. Plus, I wonder how it would fare with duelists, which it should work on because it's one-handed. And also being a melee weapon with a 3-tile range. Now, the other thing is even more interesting. This is disarm. 25 fatigue, not even that bad, to be honest. Has a negative 15% chance to hit. However, 100% chance to disarm. And this just fundamentally alters the entire game. If you get a melee expert who can disarm at long range, this is just one way to deal with all kinds of new leader or mini bosses or whatever it is they're calling them in this expansion. It's supposed to be a lot more like Chosen, who are upgraded guys who can carry famed weapons. That and the one huge enemy you otherwise had to just tank before. Now you have more options with disarm. Although negative 15% to hits, nothing to shake a stick at for sure. Regardless, the whip is incredible. I imagine it could get nerfed in the future, but we'll have to wait and see. Next up are the two that I have experience with, and I love them. The Northern Raiders. These guys start with 3 experienced barbarians, and they're not kidding, they are experienced. For some reason, the detriment is listed first here. So we start with bad relations to most human factions. So what that means is that we're actually at war with not 1, but 2 of the initial 3 starting factions in the game. And we start in their territory. I'll show that off in just a second. But their benefit is that they get a higher chance to get any items from slain enemies as loot. Now, this is not joking. When I played this for about 8 hours, when I first got the key, we were getting things left and right and all over the place. It was incredible. It was a really nice build-up for items. However, because you start way out in enemy territory, it's really hard to build up your initial squad. Let's go take a look. And here we are. We literally start in the frozen north. Now, you may not want to start with this faction as you... Ooh. Let me just turn this up for a minute. Oh, boy. Listen to this music. As I was saying, if you want to fight the Northern Raiders, new faction of this DLC, you may not want to start with these guys because, as you can see here, we're enemies with almost the whole map. This is a fortunate map in that we have to come only halfway down to find a friendly town. Normally, you'll have to come all the way down here. Listen. Is it good? It's so good. I had to turn it down, though, so we can wrap up the video here. Let me just say, the music alone makes this a DLC worth purchasing, in my opinion. 750 crowns is what we start with. These barbarians... Look at this is where we're getting into things now, friends. Look at this new content. Absolutely incredible. So these guys start with 2 melee skill. Apparently 60 is the norm for barbarian melee, so this guy's going to cap out at 90. 64 hit points to start with double skill. Crazy fatigue. Here's a look at the reinforced animal hide armor. It looks beautiful in the game. I love the bear helmets. They're only 50, so you replace them, unfortunately, relatively soon. They look beautiful, though. Here's a new axe hammer. This is basically like a tier 2 axe. You'll see barbarian reavers. Oh, that's right. We're all level 3. Level 3, level 3, and level 3. Now, these guys are no joke. Look at them. They've got 2 skill on melee, another 60, 2 skill on fatigue, 80, 60 hit points. This guy's lucky. Over here, we got 1 skill on melee, but double on defense. 74 hit points with double skill, although we do have tough, so that's a lot of that. Here's hide and bone armor for 95, leather helmet for 106 with 6 fatigue. These guys are super strong, and this takes a lot of influence from the Viking series, I think, because you also start out with a monk, and the monk has triple resolve as well in every single campaign you'll play of this. So you have 3 barbarians at level 3 and a level 1 monk with triple resolve. Basically a bannerman in the making. It's just, oh, it's so much fun. But here's the thing. You're starting out way out here, just the 4 of you. You can't recruit guys until you go at least this far. And normally on most maps, you're talking like all the way down here until you find a friendly place. Additionally, I didn't point this out yet, but we start out with the new Northern Hounds, which is another great addition from the DLC. The Northern Hounds are different from the Southern Hounds in that they're slower, but stronger. I think they hit harder. They also attack less often, but they can take like 1 more hit or thereabouts. I really like them. They look fantastic. In my 8-hour stream of this start, Fenrir the Warhound was actually the MVP of the entire campaign. But one thing that's really fascinating about this start is having to be aware of the politics. which is something normally you don't have to be aware of at all in most campaigns, because you just start with neutral and nothing ever changes. But here, with House Berenger, we're completely hostile. House Gunvold, we're only threatening, and if we wait maybe a week or two, this will actually get to the point where we're not enemies with them anymore, but we will be enemies with all of their towns, but we won't be with the noble lords. So there's a potential we could work that off a little bit here and there, and that opens up more of the map to play with and experience. But we're basically going to be enemies with House Berengar till the end of time. And so them, we could use as opportunistic targets to go raid caravans, and if we can build our troops up relatively quickly, even go raid militias. We're talking about raiding militias and caravans on like day 7 in a game. And specifically going out there to do it, it's very thematic, and it feels like a group of barbarians would feel. So this is an exciting, as you can probably tell from the excitement in my voice, this is a very exciting start, but it's not easy. I had a lot of difficulty with this start because everyone's coming out trying to kill you. Everyone's outnumbering you early on. And even though you have 3 levels and some pretty nice gear and some pretty nice guys, you only have 4 of them and you can't recruit more for a bit of a jaunt. And even then you have very little money, and it's hard to get money in the very beginning of the game, but you do get more loot. So I think raiding caravans is a great way to build these guys up. But last, let's go check out Lone Wolf, without a doubt, my favorite of the new starts. Lone Wolf, the one and only 3-skull difficulty campaign origin. My last stream was 8 hours of Lone Wolf, and we failed, I think, 11 times in a row to even get a start. But, oh my god, once we got the start off the ground, keep in mind this is EEL Iron Man. Once we get the start off the ground, let me just go over it, and then I'll give you a quick montage of what it's like once you... Oh boy, let me just show you what it's about. Start with single experienced Hedge Knight. Now, they're not kidding. When they say single experienced they're not kidding. Single experienced Hedge Knight and great equipment, but low funds. The penalty here is that you can never have more than 12 men in your roster. So you can never have extra men in the back lines. If someone gets wounded, you're just going to have to fight a fight the next fight if you have more than one fight in a row with wounded mans. Or you're going to have to make heavy use of camping and resting. Additionally, it's essentially Iron Man mode. If your Hedge Knight dies, the campaign's over. Let's go take a look. And here we are, our lone Hedge Knight. On EEL, you start with 650 crowns, which is pathetic. Unbelievable. You have 1 man. 1. You start with sellsword armor, however, 260. You start with 210 bassinet with mail, and you start with a long sword. Additionally, you always have triple skill in melee, double in melee defense, and triple in fatigue. I would say that this campaign lends itself the most to save scumming, because this is a normal Hedge Knight otherwise. You can just keep rolling over and over and over again until you get a really fantastic character with a max roll melee skill, max roll morale, max roll fatigue. I've had an absolute blast of a time trying to figure out how to play this, and what I've done, which has worked out extremely well after failing for 4 straight hours. Just want to put that out there. It's not a guaranteed path to victory. But what I've done is actually double down on making my Hedge Knights super, super, super strong. And because your character is actually so strong, with such good skill, you can immediately go into more melee defense, more fatigue. We got very lucky here in that we had 41 resolve. Why do we have 51 resolve down here when it says we have 41 as a base? There's nothing really going on. Oh, there we go. Oh. Oh. Holy banana. Okay. I honestly feel like the devs have been watching my streams, because in the middle of my last Lone Wolf stream, they changed how quick cans works. I'll get into that in a second. And now I feel like the one thing I failed at the most was my resolve. My resolve checks in my last campaigns, trying to get the Lone Wolf going. Now player character gives you plus 10 resolve. Holy bananas. That makes all the difference in the world. All the difference in the world, guys. I cannot tell you. Several of my campaigns failed from literally being surrounded. As a Lone Wolf, you have so many morale checks as people are surrounding you. I would get up to 51 resolve just using my basic things here, pushing myself right up. It looks like the devs saw that, thought it was a little too penalizing, and gave the player character plus 10 resolve as a result. So now you can go full fatigue here. something like this. This is a really difficult start, and I think EEL Iron Man Lone Wolf is going to be one of the most fun things in the game. But the way I've done it is start out with Student and immediately go into Quick Hands, because missing even one single... Not Quick Hands, sorry. Immediately go into Gifted. Missing even once in the early game, you only get one round swing. They all need to hit. If they all hit, then great. If you miss even like once, that could be the end of your campaign. This is a fantastic start. So on day 1, we've got one guy with 76 melee skills, 17 defense, 67 fatigue, even in this gear, with 51 morale. But he's all by himself. I would actually take Brawny as well. Now we're up to 79 fatigue. We can probably round swing twice. Comboing the 20 Student with, keep in mind, with this start, you always start next to a castle here, like a huge castle, and in it is always going to be a training hall. And we had kind of a lively discussion on the streams before about how best to do this. I personally feel like going immediately into veterans lessons is a good idea because you have so little money. You really can't recruit men, and if you did, you can't gear them up. And having them is not a benefit to you because the enemy will always go after your weakest man, and then that means your character can't do efficient AoE, and your weakest man just keeps dying, and they're a waste, and they suck up your experience. But now, between student and training experience, we're getting 50% bonus experience. If we can get one fight, one single fight, well, against 7 thugs, we're talking immediate 1,500 experience on the first fight. That's a level. Do it again, immediate like 1,500 more experience. You'll be just close to a level, if not at a level. Then you can take Lone Wolf. If you can survive those first 2 to 3 fights and you get Lone Wolf, 15% of your then 80 melee means you're going to have a 95% chance to hit everyone. Your resolve will go up, meaning you won't get panicked as much as well, and additionally your melee defense goes up. Oh boy, do you become a veritable god. 1 or 2 more battles, you get to Battle Forged. It's difficult trying to survive as a lone wolf. Or another option you could do is try to recruit a bunch of rinky-dink mans and have them run in circles. Maybe that'll work for you. For me personally, I feel like leveling up your main character is probably the best path. God, I've been talking for too long. I think leveling up the main character is the best path to victory, but the theory crafting it's still out there. In my streamed campaign, after 7 hours, I had gotten my Lone Wolf up to level 11 on day 31, and I'm just starting to recruit some really nice mans. I got 3 guys. That's phase 1 of the campaign, is getting your main character to level 11 as fast as possible. Then it becomes a whole new game as you try to figure out how do you build up from 3 or 4 guys that you have at the time to then getting up to a full party of 12 when you're now fighting raiders and reavers and stuff like that. So it fundamentally alters the entire beginning of the campaign in amazing, amazing ways. Anyways, I really love this one, as you can tell. This is my current campaign that I'll be streaming as the DLC launches on Thursday and probably again on this Sunday. So if you're interested, there's a link in the description to my Twitch where you can see what's going on with that. But for now, I'll just leave you with a quick preview of what it's like when you finally get your Lone Wolf to come into his own. Oh my lord, is this going to be fun times with Barbarians. Glad I didn't move to that hill. Remember the days I had to start by running to hills like a scaredy McScardo? Now I'm just like, yo, you guys have javelins? Huzzah! Wow, they didn't die, though, this time. Okay. Everything's fine and dandy, guys. Fear ye not. And this worked just fine and dandy. So, just a few more things to cover up here, and this review, rather lengthy review, is finally at its end, I believe. So, I wanted to talk about the perks. This is my current campaign, by the way. I'm going to be continuing tonight and tomorrow. It's day 32, Lone Wolf. I'm currently level 11 already. I'm starting to get a couple of mans in. I'm excited about that. We get a whip cracker and some other interesting things. But let's go over the perks really quick that have changed since prior. So first and foremost, there's one new perk in the game called Relentless. And this, at all times, your initiative is reduced by only 50% of your accumulated fatigue instead of all of it. This essentially enables initiative builds. I've tried many initiative builds over the 350 or so hours I've played the game, and none of them, they all failed to impress, shall we say. None of them really held their own. I do feel like initiative builds are good as far as like distracting the enemy, because the AI likes to run after that person. But other than just a distraction, they never really get to do very much. But now I'm thinking, with this Relentless, whoo, that can make a big difference. That, in conjunction with, say, a whip that can hit from 3 tiles away. There's a lot of options for initiative builds now. I'm also interested to work on a, rather than a polearm throwing axe spec like I used to use, I was thinking of a whip throwing axe spec. So the throwing axes are hybrid spec. So the throwing axes are good at ripping off armor, and then the whip would be good for making things bleed. I don't know if that's going to be a good idea or not. Just, there's a lot of fun, interesting things to theorycraft now, especially as a result of Relentless. It opens a whole new avenue of character into the game. A couple of small changes they made. Well, one other huge change they made in the middle of my stream is that Quick Hands no longer works on shields, which changes a lot of things. I think this is probably a change for the good, but it made me really sad because you can no longer Quick Hands drop your shield to get like duelist javelins and then Quick Hands grab your shield and run back across the map. It was kind of cheesy, but yeah, Quick Hands no longer works on shields. However, Quick Hands no longer applies to bags and belts. So if you have bags and belts, you can actually carry a shield for free, for no fatigue penalty. So you get a little, and I guess you give a little. And lastly, I think the only other big change they made was that they added whips as cleavers with a ton of bleed, and then they made one small change to nimble. It's, oh! Well, look, okay. Well, they had changed nimble to, it used to be 60 over 15 fatigue. They changed it to 55 over 17, and now, apparently, with today's update, they have changed it back to 60 and 15 again. So, there you go. Not really much of a difference there. Just a couple of little micro changes as they're ironing out balance, I suppose, in the final... I want to go look through everything now again. There's just been a couple little changes here and there. Interesting. In any event, one other thing I wanted to talk about was... Let me see if I can find some items over here. Weaponsmith. Boy, I shouldn't really run over here because this is my current campaign. Let's go, I'll do it anyway. Hopefully nothing happens. Just a real quick thing. They changed the way that famed items work. Oh, bloody hell. Okay. Well, we're a little bit wounded. Here's a million billion guys. I guess we're just doing an impromptu let's play now for 2 seconds. Can I kill these guys with only 115 armor? What do you think? What do you guys think? I'm thinking, clash the beds! Okay. So far, so good. Let's see it. Come on, man. Come on. Yeah? Bring it. These clubs are really scary because they can chain stun. Miss? Come on. Anyone else? Apparently not. All right, well, here's my new plan. Crash! Who do I want to kill? You or you? Probably you. Come on. Bring it. Bring it! I like how I get ambushed at half health while trying to show off the game. These maces are really bad because they add the 10 fatigue. Especially in our instance, I may not be able to round swing. Never mind, I can round swing. Double maces are the ticket to victory. Whew. I've also got 7. Oh my lord, friends. I can do everything I've ever wanted. 1, 2. Whew. Whew. Doesn't this get you excited? We're talking just casual, impromptu murder on the high fields. You're looking a little wounded. How's it going? Yep. I'm the lone wolf. I didn't even mean to do this. It's so ridiculous. Now, granted, we're not gonna be fighting thralls forever, but wow. 1,380 crowns, 100 days work. Apparently that might have been part of the thing we needed to do. I wasn't really reading it, to be honest. I just wanted to show you guys the fatigue, or sorry, the famed weapons. Whoopsie daisy. And unfortunately, there are none in here. Well, this is what I have to say about famed items now. They're a lot more interesting. So, it seems like they only have one benefit. But before, they just used to be super power creep. Now they have one kind of stat boost, and they have one bonus. And the bonuses I've seen are like an axe will give you less fatigue on each skill than normal. Or I saw an armor piece that had immunity to acid on it or something like that. So they seem to have some kind of unique things that make them a little bit more unique. They cost the same as they used to, but they can be a little bit more varied, and they're also a lot more common, which is a very nice thing to see. And that about does it. There's a couple extra things I didn't cover. They've added 2 new legendary locations for those of you who care about late game things. They've additionally, I've only shown a little bit of the Barbarians, just the Thralls, and maybe a Reaver was here or there. I haven't even fought the new War Drummer styles, or they have new champions now. They also have like Beastmasters who have, I forget what the giant guys are called, like the giant trolls. It's just escaping me for some reason, but they have those on a leash, and if you disorient or disarm the Beastmaster, they can go wild. It's going to be a lot of crazy stuff. I love this faction. I love the Northern Mans. Sorry, that's probably not something I should say on a family-friendly channel, but anyway, what I'm saying here is that it's just a fantastic all-around expansion. I love everything about it. I'm really excited to fight more of these champions, they call them, who have the famed items. This is exactly what I wanted out of the last expansion. If they keep cranking expansions out like this, I will buy every one, and I will love every one of them to death. This is incredible. 100%, 10 out of 10 expansion in my opinion. Would recommend. If you guys want to see more, then you can check out my Twitch channel very soon. Surprise! And otherwise, that's it. Hope you guys enjoy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.